Run With Chestnut.
Welcome to the Run With Chestnut podcast. This is episode number 17, and today's episode is all about goals, what the different categories of goals are, what actually goes into creating a well-structured goal. For example, a lot of people have heard of the SMART concept. Is that the best way to go, or are there better ways? You'll find out. We'll also talk about some of our own goals for the future, and we'll workshop them live so that you guys can hear how to take a goal that we have in mind and how to actually structure it in an effective way so that it actually gets done. Studies show that majority of people who set goals don't actually get them done. Why is that? And how can we make sure that we are not in that statistic? Anyway, my name is Francesco Magisano. Today I'm joined by my two guests from afar, Simon and Milica. How you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you?
No. Like, how are you actually doing today, Simon?
Not
like, how you doing? Good. How are you? Good. Let's go on. Like, how are you actually doing?
Well, let's see. I woke up. I listened to this morning show, which talks about investing. I went downstairs, ate. Oh, my dad.
Wait, you went downstairs?
Yes. I live in an upstairs
Reductio
room.
ad absurdum is what I'm doing. You got a haircut?
Get the reference. Yes.
That's pretty cool. I feel like haircuts are one of the things that we are discovering.
How did we get to haircuts?
No, that's cool. Well, we'll get back on track in a second. But I feel like, so anytime there's a pandemic, I say that as if there are many pandemics. Anytime there's like the world, something's what's up, right, in the world.
Yeah.
There's always a shortage of toilet paper, right? Someone's mic is really rustling, by the way. Just letting you guys know. There's always a shortage of toilet paper. There's always a shortage on like canned goods, right? Foods and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think this pandemic has made it so that there will also be a absolute swamp on hair salons and things leading into any sort of, right? Because like people are just like, what?
Swamp, you mean? Sorry.
No,
Say
just
that
like
again?
so many people, we're realizing how valuable haircuts are. Right? How many people are at home like doing their own hair in their bathtub, trying to like razor it off, and it's.
So you're saying that the salons will be packed, or?
I mean, yeah. I hate to say if anything like this ever happens again, right? But like, if anything ever does happen, like the first thing I'm doing is getting a haircut, because who knows when you can get the next one.
I guess, but like for example, my dad learned to give me a haircut.
I'm not getting a haircut done by any parent. That's just me. I will gladly pay money to have a professional do it, not in my bathtub.
I guess.
Anyway,
Or the
what's up
dorm
with you,
room
Melissa?
sink. Me, a lot of courses. It's things I like to do, all education, special ed, woo. But there's odd timings that are making me kind of sad and wish I was a cat that I could just fall asleep wherever and whenever. I can't, though I have two. My two cats have not gifted me with their talent of cat naps. So I'm excited to be here and learn something about goals and maybe just adopt a healthier lifestyle in terms of just scheduling and things. So
well, speaking of
this is
healthier
good.
lifestyles, I took two naps today and they were awesome.
Lucky you.
Cool. So before we get started, I have two things I want to share with you guys. Two articles. Well, one article and one sort of factoid. The first one, I think I sent to you, Simon. I don't know if you read it or not. But it's an article entitled "All Highly Intelligent People Share This Trait."
Yes.
Which, by the way, well, there's a semicolon there. But anyway, that's a very clickbaity title, right? Because it's like, I want to know what this trait is. I want to be highly intelligent. So all highly intelligent people, all highly intelligent people share this trait according to Steve Jobs and science.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, I want to know what it is. Melissa, you didn't read this, right?
No.
Okay, awesome. Any guesses? What is the trait that all intelligent people have according to Steve Jobs and science?
Can I cheat and say that because we're doing an episode on goals, it's goals setting?
Absolutely
and
no.
sticking
You'd be
to
wrong.
them?
You'd be very wrong.
Okay.
You'd be very wrong. It's actually the ability it's an ability for an intelligent, analytical person to have perspective,
Yes.
both
And
in the scope of what you know and also the scope of what you are analyzing or viewing when trying to deal with a problem.
All right,
Kind of
now
like
take
focusing
that
on a
and
tree
simplify it to
instead of
my
looking
sleepy
at a
brain.
forest kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Most people either most people who are able, who are like intelligent enough and whatever, have the brain right to like really analyze one thing, tend to only focus on that one thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
those
fair.
people who do not have the mental capacity to be able to focus on the one thing tend to have like a broader view because they're forced to have a broader view, right?
right. And I feel
So-
like yeah.
What this article is saying, and I mean, who knows if it's true or not? Who cares, right? I mean, it's just interesting to talk about. What they're claiming is that number one, you need to have the brain to be able to focus and analyze one thing. Like you have to have the capacity to be able to do that, but then also zoom out and keep perspective. Does it make sense?
Yes.
It does. As I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, boy, do I have trouble doing. I feel like I would have more trouble doing the broader part than focusing on one thing. That's
Yeah,
Well,
I feel like
that's-
that's where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Melissa.
No, I was gonna say basically the same thing, that it's easier to see what's right in front of you than
Right.
something that's all the way somewhere else.
Yeah, I have in my life, I can count on one hand the number of people that I've met that I've talked to them and their mind is just so different that they say something. It could be completely simple, right? They just make an offhand comment and it forces you to re-examine your view on life or your view on anything, right? Like their mind just works so differently. Doesn't necessarily mean smarter, just differently than anyone else's, that they're able to spot things or identify things that other people, the majority, just do not understand,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And I feel like the people who are able to do that are the ones who are massively successful in business or whatever. Not because they're incredibly smarter than other people, they just see things that most people don't see. You
Do
know?
you think that's something like scientifically I can't say the word
Physiologically.
I can't say it. Say it again.
You can do it, Simon.
Physiologically?
Physiologically.
Okay.
Ooh,
Woo!
wow. Do you think that's in the brain, like there's something like that, or do you think it's just how a person like is taught to think?
I think, well, I mean, I don't know, obviously, for sure. But I feel like the type of people who do that, who fall in that category, they are just like that. You know? And their education maybe furthers it,
Right.
but the education furthers what was already there.
Right. Right.
You know? Just like, I mean, I'll bring up a super controversial guy. I feel like some people, like you either hate him or you love him. But Elon Musk, right, who's the CEO of Tesla.
Oh.
You some people hate him, some people love him. I don't think you can deny that the thoughts that person, that human being has. Well, first of all, some people are like, he's not a human, he's he's some crazy mutant. Because like the thoughts he has, the ideas that he has, is just vastly different from what most people think. Whether you like him or not, he's different. And again, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just different, you know?
Do you want to get into the ideas that he had, like some of them, or just
No, because we were going to be here for a while.
Oh, okay.
But whatever. Like insert any visionary. I mean, even like Steve Jobs as a CEO, right?
Right.
There are definitely negatives to Steve Jobs. There are positives, right? He had some whatever. He didn't have like a squeaky clean record, right?
No.
But
He was mean.
yeah, some people say it was mean, whatever. The point is, some of the ideas that came out of his head were different from what most people thought was like thinking was possible at the time, right?
Right. I mean,
Think
who
like
would have
the
thought we would
iPhone.
have had? Yeah, who would have
Right?
thought we would
The
have had mini
iPad.
computers in our hands? Yeah.
Well, not just that; it was the execution. Like we all knew computers were getting smaller and faster, but he's the one who packaged it and executed it in a way that completely became
Right.
like it took off. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's something that's cool to just think about, like, you know, thinking differently.
Though, so you're saying that article claims that people who think completely differently are the ones that have, like, that are likely to succeed, right?
Melissa?
Because presumably
All right.
because they're going to
I
think
think we
up
lost
something that nobody else thought
yeah.
about, right? Is that what we're getting at?
We can cut this part out, maybe.
Yeah, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Melissa, is your laptop charging, by the way, Simon?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh
Because
boy.
I know.
charging GarageBand will drain it pretty fast.
Oh, okay.
Hello,
Melissa?
friends.
Oh, there you
Ah,
are. What
all
happened?
right.
I don't know. I was trying to propose a theory
Is
or
your laptop plugged in, by the way?
yeah.
I just realized how
Of course it is.
thermally taxing GarageBand recording is on a MacBook Air right now.
Oh.
Actually, it's not, but I'm fully charged.
Okay. Well, you have a Pro too.
yeah,
But anyway, so we should
I'm no Andrew.
cut out that middle part because there was a lot of hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, continue.
Resume.
Let's have a silent thing and then you make your point, Melissa.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, you're saying that people, or this article is saying that people who think completely outside of the box are bound to be or likely to be successful, right?
I think it's less that people who think out of the box tend to be successful. It's more that they are able, because the article is not saying whether it's a good or a bad thing. They're just saying that they're able to come up with ideas and like spot things. And because it's about Steve Jobs, they're doing it in the lens of business. So they're able to spot things that a majority of people are unable to do.
Okay. Then that might nullify my point, but I know that in college I took some like social classes and stuff, and we were talking about the two different, I guess, types of values, where we either some places will value like completely coming up with something new, and I feel like that's what the article might have been getting at, like, you know, something revolutionary like the iPhone or, you know, whatever, whereas other places are value more where like building on things, like you can be successful if you just improve something that, like, we kind of all build on each other. So I'm wondering if
I think a perfect example of the difference between what this article or like what I'm talking about and what you're talking about is a quote, and I can't remember who said this quote. I think it was Henry Ford, right? The guy like the Ford motor vehicles.
Yeah.
I believe his quote goes something on the lines of, if he stuck to traditional like progression, as in if he was not an innovator, right? If he just stuck with what was existing and he just improved, he would have made faster horse carriages. Versus ditching horses completely and starting to make, obviously, like gas vehicles, right? Like, I'm totally butchering the quote, but the point is, regular progression is important, right, in business. But when you can find an innovator that completely takes a different idea, like a completely different idea that solves the original problem better than the original solution.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like, hey, if we want to, reduce pollution in the environment, let's lessen or decrease let's improve the gas efficiency of our vehicles, right? Versus, hey, let's just not use gas at all. Let's just use electric. You know, I mean, that's a super basic answer, but it's like a completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Makes sense.
I thought it was cool. I had the second article, but I feel like we spent enough time on that first one. So how about I save this article for Thursday? I will give you a hint. It has something to do with Stan. That is all I'm saying. Anyway, we'll talk about that on Thursday. Let's go right into our discussion on goals.
Yep.
Why goals?
Wait, how is this
Simon?
article relevant?
What?
I'm sorry?
So wait, why was are we just ramblings? Because how is this article relevant to goals?
Oh, it's not.
No,
It's just something cool I found.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Moving on.
excuse me for being, wanting to bring something interesting to the folks.
I like my structure. Thank you very
this is
much.
structure.
Yeah.
Part 1 minute through, 9 minutes and 55 seconds. Okay, cool. So goal setting. So let's talk a little bit about
Why
where
are
goals.
important.
Well, I would say where goals fit into our overall lives, right? Because I don't think goals are the all important things that should drive our actions.
Right.
Right? There's two things that I feel like goals that people make goals for. One is motivation, and two is direction in their lives.
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, and then we'll go through this pretty quickly, but I think if relying on motivation to do anything is a good way to ensure that thing will be spotty at best, because no one is motivated 100% of the time.
Right.
So I think if you're motivated, that's great, right? Motivation is awesome. It feels great. But I don't think you should rely on motivation 100% all the time.
Yeah.
AKA, we talked about the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink on episode, whatever it was, in the single digits. Maybe like 6-7 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, I mean, that book and his entire philosophy could be boiled down to discipline, right?
Yes.
And I feel like discipline is this word that's thrown around a lot. It's very popularized, martial arts, be disciplined, but, let me eat my, fish out of my bamboo kettle and things. I feel like, discipline can just literally be you do something when you don't feel like doing it. Right?
That's what
it
I
could be
think of
very
it.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this whole built-up Hollywood discipline. I feel like when people hear the word discipline, they think of ancient samurai warriors and things like that. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. It's literally just someone doing something when they don't feel like doing it.
That's how I just view discipline.
Yeah. So goals are great, but you should not rely on motivation entirely to get those goals. Have a little bit of discipline should be the underlying thing, and when motivation is there, that's great. But when it's not there, you still have your discipline. We could do a whole other thing on discipline, but just wanted to say that. And the second thing, providing direction in your life. I feel like using goals to set the direction of your life is a great way to have sort of a yo-yo effect of satisfaction and unfulfillment. Is that a word? Unfulfillment? Unfulfilled?
Fulfillment?
No, unfulfillment.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll take what?
The word.
Oh, the word. Perfect. Yes. I'm coining it. If it's not a real word, I'm coining it. I'm making a real word. Unfulfillment. Basically meaning that if the only thing motivating you to say like exercise or lose weight, right?
Yeah.
Say I'm 200 pounds. My goal is 195. All right. Now my next goal, I reached 195. All right. My next goal is 190. I do that. My next goal is 185. Say I get down to 170. Perfect. My goal is done. This is my ideal weight. What do you do then? You're done. Right? That's why I feel like a lot of people set fitness goals. They reach the goals, whether it's run a marathon or lose weight. They achieve those goals. and then their body completely regresses back to where it was. That's like kind of like yo-yo dieting, right?
Yeah.
They like constantly lose 30 pounds, regain the 30 pounds, lose the 30 pounds, regain 30 pounds. And it's because you're setting these goals that are static. That's basically like, it's not a long-term lifestyle, right? So that goes into another concept popularized, which we can also do another episode, but stuff like Atomic Habits. Yeah, Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think his name was. Basically talking about developing systems instead of goals. In a very simple way.
This might not be the focus of this, but I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
As the fitness ignorant person here. If you set your fitness goal and you get to your 100 and however many pounds you want to be, does the body regress because your eating habits, for example, are more suited to, I guess, a higher weight, or is it just
I think he meant that it regresses because once you've reached the goal, you go back to the way you were before you.
But does that
I understand your question. There's a lot of mechanics that go into the reason why you gain the weight back, but the biggest thing is you lose the motivation of that goal. You lose the direction and the purpose of that goal.
But some people are like, there are people who are different weights and they don't really do much. Like my weight does not fluctuate much, and I don't really feel like I do much.
If you say, I don't know, say you're 100 pounds, I mean, I don't know. Say you're 100 pounds and your school emails you and is like, hey, we're going to do a fitness challenge. First person, like if you lose 25 more, I mean, I know it's like completely unrealistic numbers, but let's say like you go down, you diet down, you go down to 75 pounds, right? If you look at the vast majority of studies done on people within fitness, and there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of done, very, very few of them actually stayed down at that weight, either because they got there in an unsustainable way because they were, trying to get there as fast as possible, or they were focused on that goal, like boom, you hit the goal, you're there, and then you're like, okay, I'm here. I have no more motivation because I don't have this goal in front of me. I already achieved it. So then they regress to the way they were before, whether it be eating habits or not working out anymore, or
yes, but that still doesn't answer my question, because by that logic, wouldn't you just keep increasing your weight like forever? Like, why can I stay at, say, the 100 pounds, but I can't stay at the 75 pounds?
Because you have a level of homeostasis that your current lifestyle supports. And then Okay,
so
let me use me an example so I can use like exact numbers. So I'm 190 pounds right now, right? For me to lose 15 pounds, say like I like cut back, like dieting, I'd start lifting a little more, blah, blah, blah. Say I go down to 175. All what it would take for me to get from 175 back up to 190 is just return to the way I live normally now, right? For me to get from 190 to 210, I would have to drastically increase the amount that I eat. I would have to make another change. You know what I mean? Either start working out a lot less or eat a lot more. The point being is we have this sort of like homeostasis where we sit, and until we make the new place, the new sort of balancing point, the new homeostasis, which takes time, which if you have a goal of getting down to 175, you're there for a short period of time until the goal is done. And then,
can your goal be to be there to like?
That's where I'm going at. So most goals are set around events or milestones, where it's like I want to finish a marathon, and then you run the marathon, and then you don't go out for another run for the next year. You know what I mean? Or like I want to lose 30 pounds. Instead of thinking I want to lose 30 pounds as a goal, say like I'm 190, right? Say I want to get down to like 160. Which is, I think, impossible. Well, whatever. See, if my goal is I want to be 160, instead of having my goal being I want to lose 30 pounds, my goal would be I want to be a 160-pound person and then adopt the lifestyle of a 160-pound person. Like I identify as a person who is 160 pounds, and I will live my life around that lifestyle.
Okay, is that another? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, is that a lifestyle that you'll have to keep up until the end of your life, or is it something that will take more time than simply getting to the goal, but is something that you can, just get your body used to over the course of however long, like a year. I don't know how
and
these
obviously
things work.
the severity or the difficulty of your goal will depend like how much work it takes to get there, right? Like obviously if you want to go to the extreme, then it's going to take more work to keep yourself there. But generally speaking, the change is what takes the most amount of effort, right? Actually getting there takes a lot of effort. Once you're there, you have to stay there for a certain amount of time, even if, even just a couple of weeks is a massive difference. Even just spending 3 weeks somewhere, 3 weeks at your new weight, or 3 weeks with a level of, fitness, or 3 weeks with a new gym routine, right? It takes, people say like, oh, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks to instill like a new habit, whatever it is, 2-3 weeks. That's sort of the sweet spot, right? Once you're there, it starts getting a little easier, because then your lifestyle, whatever your goal is, even if it has nothing to do with fitness, your life starts to support that goal.
So is that kind of like, say I want to lose some weight, and so I will exercise but also eat less. Does that mean when I get there to my goal and like stay there for a while, I'll be eating less for like, I don't know, say random numbers, 3 months, I'll take like 1 serving instead of 2. Does that mean that for the rest of my life I'll have to take 1 serving, or does that mean until like I get used to it?
I hate to use those examples because honestly, if you were wanted to lose weight, that's not how I would tell you to do it. And
okay,
obviously
but I don't know how to do.
No, I know, but we're not. And obviously, just as a disclaimer, we're not suggesting anyone goes out and follows exactly. Don't work out more and eat less as a way to lose weight, especially if you haven't been working out before, right? That's not whatever. But
yes.
We're going to do another episode on how to actually lose weight, how to lose fat, things like that.
Yes, I'm sorry, I do not know how to do
it's okay.
proper fitness. So especially, no one should listen to me. If anything.
But your question at the root of it is, do you have to maintain the new things that you did to get there,
or does your body adapt and then you can kind of do it?
You can't go back to living the way you were at a different place, but the new place becomes the new normal once you're there for a while. You know what I mean?
So then,
like, if right now I'm 190 and I diet down, I work out, and I go down to 170. But at 190, if I was eating one chocolate cake every day, right, and I cut that out to get down to 170, if I reintroduce that chocolate cake every day, chances are I'm going to go back up to 190. So it's not like, oh, you can live exactly the same, because you're 190 for a reason, right? You got there for a reason. So if you revert to the way you were to get yourself there, you're going to get there again.
Right.
But it's always harder the first few weeks because it's a change, it's a difference, right? Once you get past that, you're in this new lifestyle, which isn't new anymore because that is your life now.
Which is, and it's also, it's hard also because you have to, you got to fight the cravings that you have.
Well, also, again, definitely no fitness advice, especially not for me. But I know that when I was in college and feeding myself and in the city and, living off like a student salary, if you will, I would eat less than when I'm here, and other people take care of the purchasing of groceries and the making of them and all that. So I see how when I'm at school, like for the first while, I'm like, oh man, I could have made more or something. And then after a while, it's fine. So I think I do get that. And then here, it takes a while for me to just, first I'll start with a certain amount, and then I'll increase a little bit because it's so delicious and, it's right there. So why not? And so I do get that. So I think the way you explained it.
Our bodies are adaptation masters, right? We are so good as a living organism to adapt to different things. Right? We can go without food for weeks versus if you skip breakfast one day and you're not used to skipping breakfast, you're about to like rip a door off because you're so angry, right? You get so angry, like, I'm so hungry. But you could literally go weeks without food if you needed to. Like, we can...
Really?
Of course. It's the change that's painful, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, and we could do.
It doesn't
yeah.
seem. Yeah, well, I was just gonna say it doesn't seem as daunting. Like, if I think you told me that when you first cut out like Chinese food, just like takeout and other deep fried, things. After a while, you just did not want them anymore, and so
Yeah, and this very, very yes, and I've noticed that with sugar, like added sugar,
Yeah.
and carbohydrates, which
Yeah,
I'm
so
not saying cut
it's
out either
not-
one of those. Repeat, I am not saying cut out either one of those, but and caffeine. Oh, especially caffeine, right? Like you start you drink if you haven't drank caffeine for weeks and you have your first cup of coffee after a few weeks of not having it, you feel that caffeine boost, right? You are like
You do.
high.
Yeah.
But if you drink coffee every single day for 3 months, you don't feel it anymore because your body gets used to it, right? You stop drinking coffee. That first day you don't drink coffee, you have like mental fog. You have like you can't really function because you could even have like withdrawal symptoms. After a couple weeks of not drinking coffee, you're back to normal. You drink coffee again, boom, big effect.
Yeah.
It's just
Yep.
adaptation.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I was trying to get at is I would think that there's this big daunting thing like, oh man, to never eat cake again, like extreme example, but how can I live without ever eating cake? Like, it sounds like I'm going to set myself up for like a life of torment, where in actuality it's an adjustment period where after which I'm not missing the thing that I'm not,
Exactly,
like I'm
you're not
happy without
craving
it.
it.
But I think the big scary thing is that people don't really think about the fact that you're not going to crave it. It's just like, oh no, how am I going to live without this thing? Like I'm going to have to torture myself every day. And this is me too, but
Right.
which
Which
why I'm
isn't to say
speaking
that
about
you
it.
still can't have it, right? There's plenty of
Yeah,
fit people who have it. It's just, again, everything in moderation. But stuff for another episode. Anyway, so goal setting. Let's break down the three, and they're obviously everyone has like five different, three different, seven, right? So these are the three different types of goals, or categories, I should say, of goals that I was taught. It's pretty popular within the athletic and business worlds. Whatever, I feel like they do pretty well, and it's process goals, performance goals, outcome goals, right? Anyone want to take a stab at defining what they are?
Sure. Process goals are basically what is the process you take to achieve your goals. Is that correct?
Yeah, but can you like define it and not use the word in the definition?
Oh. Okay. Process goals are basically the steps you take to achieving those goals. And performance goal.
Go ahead, Melissa. We're gonna.
Well, actually, I thought it was more going to be goals which result in you mastering a certain process, or yeah, like doing the process right.
I
or
think
something.
I think you're both just saying it differently, right? A process
Okay.
goal is just something that you have complete control over. That is an action that you do is not reliant on any sort of external factors, right?
Yeah.
And let's use a marathon, running a marathon as a example for these three categories. So a process goal for running a marathon is I'm going to it's okay if I walk, if I stop running, if I walk, but every single mile marker that I hit, I'm going to run. Right? That's something you have control over completely. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, makes
performance
sense.
goals. What are performance goals? Melissa, you want to take a stab?
Goals which are completed once you perform up to a certain standard.
Exactly. So okay, in the marathon example, a performance goal would be I'm going to run this marathon in less than 4 hours, in under 4 hours. So it's still, you still have control over it. There is a little bit more of external influence, right? Maybe it's like storming, or maybe the course is really hilly. So there's still some external factors, but you still have a vast majority of control over you executing that goal or not, right? And it's how you perform doing that. And the last category is outcome goals. Simon, want to take a stab?
Outcome goals. They are goals that basically
You can say you don't know.
how do I say this? I think I do, but they're goals that will, what is it basically, to get the result of what you're trying to do. I don't know.
Yeah, but technically, well, go ahead, Melissa.
When your process and performance get to a certain, like when they allow you to get a result, I don't know.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So the big defining thing of an outcome goal is basically a goal that you have very little, besides your preparation and execution, you have very little control over the outcome. And with the marathon example would be my goal is to win the marathon because you have no control over who else shows up, right? Maybe there are a lot faster people. Like, you know, if this is your first marathon and a bunch of pro marathoners, it doesn't matter how good your goals are, you're probably not going to win, right? So you can execute your process goals perfectly. You can execute your performance goals perfectly, but there's nothing you can do about winning. If you're not the fastest one, you're not the fastest one, right? So generally speaking, when setting goals, the preference is to set process goals. Because, and you can have all three goals, right? I mean, it doesn't say you can't have all three. I definitely have all three myself. But when setting goals, especially short-term goals, because they're short-term and long-term, right? The tendency is to favor the process ones because you actually have full control over that. So, you know, if you're wanting to start running, a process goal would be I'm going to run 3 times a week in the mornings, right? That's a process goal. Performance goal would be I'm going to get this fast in this number of weeks, right? That's you have control over it because your consistency will lead to speed improvements, but your body's, you know, it's less control, right?
It's less control in the sense, I would say it's less control in the sense that, sorry, you can say that you can get faster in a number of weeks in a certain amount of time, but I would say you have less control just because I feel like everyone's bodies are different, and it might take you longer to get faster than like the other person, no matter even if. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I'm just letting you express your. Yeah, and it's good to have all these goals, right? Like I said, I have all these goals, but if you're centering a structure around short-term goals, generally speaking, it's good to have process ones, right? Okay, so cool. So we define process, performance, outcome. Now let's talk. Okay, so we're going to actually talk about what the structure of a goal is. And probably the most popular structure of a goal, either in business or athletics or whatever, are called SMART goals, right? Now, I'm not the biggest fan of SMART goals. The reason being is that, well, and we can have a long discussion about this, but basically, I feel that they are limiting in some situations where they don't need to be. They're not as, they can hold you back in some way. The point being, I would use SMART, if you're new at making goals, I would use SMART goals because it's a good outline and it gives you a starting point. But if you feel the need to expand the structure of a SMART goal, because maybe your goal doesn't fit in it or something like that, totally feel free to do that. Right?
Could you give an example of how a SMART goal could be limiting, or?
Well, what is a SMART goal?
Yeah. So let's talk about a SMART goal first.
All right.
So SMART goal, SMART is basically an acronym, right? S for specific, measurable, attainable. What's R?
So we got.
I forgot what R was.
Relevant. There we go. And time-bound.
Timely.
Time-bound, yeah. I always think, for some reason, instead of relevant, I always think like relatable, something like that. But no, relevant. So, okay, and we'll go through very quickly. So specific, obviously the goal has to be specific. How about we take one of you guys' goals and we can like break it through this so we can like do an example. Melissa?
Sure.
Or Simon?
Oh, wow. Fine, Simon.
No, go.
Oh, no, I just want to do all my readings before my classes. It's a very simple goal, and yet it can be so daunting with so many readings and the weird sleep schedules.
Finish your readings before your class. Okay, so specific,
Yes.
right? It's not, I feel like an unspecific way of saying that is I just want to read more, or I want to even I want to do all my readings before my classes, right? So you can maybe be a little more specific in the sense that you're going to do all the readings that are assigned for that specific class.
Yes.
Right.
I tend to do them after also because I feel guilty if I'd miss something, but it's better to do it before than to have more work later.
Okay, cool. M is measurable, right? So how do you measure it? I feel like it's pretty easy to measure that, whether you read it or not. It's a binary answer, right? You read it or you didn't. Attainable, that's for you to decide. Yeah, what's up?
There's multiple articles for each class or multiple chapters. Would that count into it, or does that not matter?
Well, you identified readings, so I guess whatever you count as readings, right?
No, that's a fair point. Okay. Yeah.
Measurable, whether you read it or not. Attainable would be up to you to figure out how long it takes you to read them and then give yourself enough time, right? So, and like figure out, do I have 200 articles? Like that's maybe not very attainable, or if I have only a handful. Relevant, meaning does this, what?
That sounds self-explanatory, right? Right?
I would say
not really.
relevant in the sense that it adds or it leads or contributes to your overall like longer term goals or longer term objectives. So like your longer term objective in this situation is get your degree in college so that you can move into that profession, right? So then so the goal of finishing your readings to class, and you can like, if it's not this simple to figure out, you can make like a little thought bubble or thought tree that you like draw one line to another line. But finishing all your readings will let you do better in the class. Doing better in the class gives you a better grade. Better grade means you can graduate a little better, or with a higher GPA or whatever. And graduating like that will give you a better opportunity. So like drawing the line and making sure it actually aligns with what you're doing, right? And time bound just means the finishing it before class part.
Yes.
Versus it's just saying, hey, I want to do all my readings for class. So I want to do all my readings for class before the class would be the time bound part.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a pretty basic like outline of what a SMART goal is. And I'll say, so there's been a lot of studies around goal setting, obviously, and a particular study. So now I've never heard of this university. It's called, let me get back to it. So it's called the Dominican University. And it's basically, they did a study with a few thousand people that they've tracked along the course of a few years. And basically, and this is, just one study, it's just to illustrate the point, right? Basically, they found that you're 33% more likely to actually attain your goals and finish your goals if you, one, write those goals down in detail. And I don't mean like a whole paper, but in detail, like basically what we just talked about, right? The different SMART steps. Write them down. You create an action plan, which in Melissa's case would be, figuring out how many readings she has, figuring out how long it takes to do each one, and then giving herself enough time before each class to do them. So writing them down, creating an action plan, and then actually publicizing it. So either telling someone about it, telling the entire podcasting world about it, even just telling like a classmate or something, So like, and that goes in the form of accountability, right? Because if you tell people, it might not seem like a big deal, but you are more likely to do it. And because like I know for me with athletic goals, we are encouraged to speak up and not be secretive about what our goals are for the next season, And part of that is so that we can make sure that everyone's like doing what they need to be doing. But another part is just you voice it, right? When you voice it, when you write it down, you bring it out into the world.
You're a lot more likely to do it.
Yeah,
more pressure.
Exactly. For so many reasons. Not just pressure. Just you visualize it more as a reality. Like there's a lot,
Yeah.
So cool. So process, performance, outcome, and within each of those three categories.
Would this be an outline? I'm sorry. Would this be an outcome then? My goal.
That's actually that's a good point. Let's figure that out. I would say that's a process goal. I would say that's a process goal because it's a process that you have control over, right? You're reading these articles. I would say an outcome goal would be you want to get the best grade in the class.
Right.
And a performance goal would be you want to get an A.
Okay.
You know, or you want to get above a B plus or whatever it is.
Okay. All right, cool. So then I took your recommendation then without knowing that
exactly.
Nice.
So, okay, cool. So again, process, performance, outcome, those are 3 different categories. And then the goals within those categories, it's good to have a little outline of the acronym SMART for all the goals within those categories and just trying to figure out, like get a little bit more detailed. And if you have a bunch of outcome goals or performance goals, maybe think a little bit and try to frame it in a way to make them a process goal. Like if my goal next year is to run a 3-hour marathon, maybe I want to keep that goal because it's fun, right? Like sometimes your goal is, sometimes I go into a race and the goal is to win, and that's basically going against everything we just talked about, right? Because that's an outcome goal. But maybe sometimes you just need to have some fun. Sometimes you just need it, whatever.
Yeah.
But for like true growth, maybe I can rephrase that, and instead of saying I'm going to win this race as a goal, I can make them into smaller process goals. Every corner I'm going to make sure to really take my lines right. I'm not going to feel like I held anything back on I don't know, like,
Wouldn't process then well, maybe not, but I'm thinking, with accountability and all that, with performance, isn't it so much easier to then flip it around and like blame other factors, where with the process you've got only yourself to blame?
Very, very good point. So this goes, we talked about the Extreme Ownership book by Jocko Willink earlier. And another big theme of that book is ownership, right? Owning when you do something wrong. And basically anything that happens in your life, you can, if you have the self-awareness, right, and the ability to like sort of shrug off the ego and things like that, you can kind of draw back to yourself, right? So if my goal, like, and I'm pretty sure this is what the point you were making, Melissa, but tell me if I'm wrong. But if my goal is to win, which is an outcome goal, well, if I don't win, it's very easy to blame. Oh, I didn't win because this person was really fast.
Was faster than me.
Yeah, or this happened. Where in reality,
my shoe was bad. Yeah.
Maybe I should have trained a little harder, right? Or performance goal. My goal is to get us a marathon time under 4 hours. The course was really hilly. It rained that day. Like, again, where in reality, maybe I could have just trained a little harder.
Yeah.
Like versus a process goal. Yeah. If your goal in a process goal is I'm going to run through every mile, you could still blame people, but it's a lot harder. It's you that's not doing it.
Yeah.
So cool. So that's basically that's the end of the value part, I guess. Now I thought it'd be fun.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah. More questions. I just love the questions this evening. So you said start out with the process goals. Is it something kind of like beginners do process and then experienced users do this, or just always tend to go for?
I would say the vast majority of anyone's goals should be process goals. I would say the only time you should have like an outcome goal or a performance goal is as an attachment, let's say, to your process. Say I have like 5-10 process goals for my next race, right? I'm gonna like make sure to go up the hills nice and fast. I don't know, like I have a bunch of process goals, right? Well, okay, maybe then I could have a performance goal. It'd be cool if I could get under a certain time, or if it's a competitive race that I'm entering, it'd be cool to get top 3. Like that's my goal. My goal is to get top 3. I have gone into races where my goal is performance or outcome related, right? I have definitely gone into races where it's like, I want to be on the podium. But that's not my only goal, right? I have a bunch of process goals that I have that I achieve regardless of if I achieve that outcome goal.
And that's another thing, like you said kind of before with the whole like nutrition talk, that wasn't supposed to even happen, is your goals should all kind of be connected, right? It's not just, I'll win this race and then what? It's like you want to be a good athlete, and that's more of like a life, like you can still practice to be a better athlete even when you're like 78, right? So
definitely. And I think
it's like
yeah, exactly. It's for the vast majority of people who are not trying to win or be competitive. No, even people who are, I would argue, even people who are trying to win or be competitive, I would think that you are a better athlete if you identify yourself as an athlete and not just my goal is to win nationals. Like I'm just regular me, but I want to win nationals. Versus I'm a runner, I'm a cyclist. I'm gonna live, breathe. I'm gonna be I am a cyclist who also wins nationals.
Like even for me, right? Like I want to be a teacher, and so I don't think there's any point at which I can just be like, all right, I've learned all of the things. I'm going to teach children the same exact way until I die. Like you can always, and so that kind of goal is always going to have new goals, like new articles, new conferences, new methods, new technologies. So like there are always going to be goals that help you get to your overall goal, which maybe arguably you're never going to achieve because you're never going to become like the best athlete or the best teacher. Like you can just, the best you can do is improve, which maybe I think I put it a little bit negatively, but I'm saying it's like a goal that is always, that you can always do more to get. Does this make sense?
Which is why I think it's so important to have goals centered around the process and not the outcome. Because if your goal is to win, there will come a point in your life where you cannot win anymore. Right? Yeah. If your goal is to improve, there will always be a way for you to improve. And improvement can be tracked with different metrics. Improvement does not necessarily have to mean I can lift more weight or I could run faster, right? Improvement could be I could run with less pain after the run, or I could run with more mobility, or, like if you're getting older, your speed might be going down, but there are so many other ways you can improve, So again, and where you're talking about just continuously learning, you're just basically talking about a growth mindset, right? But having having a process, we're basically all the things we've said, if that makes sense. One last thing before we talk about our own goals, actually, is a reference to the Atomic Habits book, where the guy has a whole section dedicated to basically trying to get you to identify as what you want to be instead of being someone who has that goal, right? And it's basically turn the word of the thing that you want to be into your verb or your adjective. And what I mean by that is if your goal is to start journaling every morning, right? You're not someone who journals. You identify yourself as a journaler, if that makes sense, right? If your goal is to be a marathon runner, you're not a regular dude who runs a marathon. You identify yourself as a marathon runner.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like for me, so when I first got into triathlon, I struggled with swimming, right? Running, biking came pretty easily. Swimming came a little harder because I didn't have a background. Yeah, I only started getting really good at swimming after I stopped thinking of my swimming as a necessary thing to complement my triathlon or me as a triathlete. I started identifying as a swimmer. Like I am a swimmer. I started doing stuff that swimmers do that triathletes never do, such as kick off walls, do some underwater dolphins off every wall. I got the little goggles that you would never wear during a triathlon, but you always wear in a pool, like the little beady-eyed ones with the mirrored. You know what I mean?
I have a theory. I have a thought on that actually. Like you're talking about identifying yourself as that thing you're trying to become or do, but. For example, I think we had this conversation a while back, and it was about music. And we were talking about, for example, I'm a drummer, right? But now, is it fair to is it fair to say to someone, oh, I'm a drummer, but then there are drummers that can play 10 times better than I can, and...
Yes, because proficiency, I don't think, matters in your identity. Right, and thank you for bringing up the musician thing because I think that's a perfect example. Say you're brand new at the drums or guitar or whatever, right. And you just pick up sticks, but you're really you're not. You compare someone who identifies themselves as someone who drums, oh yeah, I'm taking drum lessons. I'm going to see how. Versus someone who says I'm a drummer. I just started yesterday, but I'm a drummer. I have got sticks. I'm taking lessons. I am a drummer. I bet you most of the time, the person who really like owns up to it, takes ownership of the identity, will do better.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought like I remember. I don't know. Like I think you.
No, but thank you for bringing that up though, because that's a very good point to make. Proficiency does not matter at all. If you can barely run, you can still identify as a marathon runner. You know, there is no cutoff point to say like, oh, you're not good at it, so you can't identify as that. You know, I don't think that's...
Yeah, but if you say to someone, "Oh, you're a runner" or "You're a drummer," and then like they say, "Oh, cool, which marathons have you ran?" and you say none, or like you show off your drum skills, a person who like listens to music a lot can say that guy can barely drum. Like, why is he saying he's a drummer? Or even I remember like one day we were talking, and I think you said like, "Oh, if you don't." To call yourself a true musician, you must be able to either, I think, like improvise, or you might. I don't remember what we were saying, but you were saying like
Have certain skills.
I think I was talking about a jazz musician having certain skills. Those are two. I'm glad you brought this up. Those are two totally different examples. One, you're talking about judge someone like we're talking about me. So let's use me in this example. Me judging someone versus someone's identity with themselves. You know? Like, I can say, Simon, you're not a good drummer because, oh, this guy and this guy and this guy can drum better than you. Right? But in your head, if you identify yourself as a drummer, you are much more likely to improve faster than if you're just some guy who takes drum lessons.
yes, but then can you tell other people you're a drummer? Yeah, you can tell it to yourself, but isn't it going to kind of come off as giving the wrong idea if you tell it to other people?
Why does it matter? Yeah, I'm a drummer. I started last week. Like, you're taking ownership, and then you're more likely to actually practice and work on it because now you're going around as this identity, you know?
I have a good one.
Yeah?
Say I am a... well, okay, let's do me because again, I love my teaching career. So say next year I get employed and it's like my first day there, right? But I'm still a teacher. That's a little different because like there's like certifications and things, but
right. But you go to a teacher's conference and say, "Hey, what do you do?" Yeah, I'm a teacher. How long have you been teaching? I started yesterday. You're still a teacher.
Yeah,
and they don't have to know how much experience I had in my program. Maybe I just like paid someone a bunch of money and they gave me the certificate. Like maybe I didn't have any experience student teaching.
Right, and I can
hopefully it doesn't happen, but you know, like you can identify as whatever. Like that's why I say it's not exactly the same because with the professional stuff, it's kind of, you know, you assume there's been like paperwork and stuff, but you still identify as someone who does this stuff.
But if someone even asks me, like, what do you do? I can still identify as a teacher, even though I've only interned and taught and never got paid for it, but still.
But see, the difference is not can you. The difference is do you. That's the difference, right? You can identify as whatever you want. The question is, will you / do you?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because a teacher or a drummer or whoever is someone who does the task. It's not someone like the definition of these two professions or you know things is not how it doesn't measure how well you do it. It just identifies that you take part in this activity.
Right. We all know.
So you're not lying.
Right. We all know very good teachers. We all know very bad teachers.
Yeah.
Both of those people are both called teachers.
Right.
So proficiency does not matter.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to just separate one like that from like the other thing with like someone judging and say.
I think that's a little bit of insecurity, Simon, because you're worried about you not being good enough for other people's judgment.
Right, but it's not. It's just like. You're not giving off the wrong idea if you're telling someone, "Oh."
But why are you worried about that?
Oh.
Right? Maybe. Like what we know. Okay. Like what are you worried about?
All right. Say you're talking to someone. You say to someone, "Oh, I'm a drummer," even though you just started a week ago. And they say, "Oh, cool. Well, I need this. I have this show, and our drummer just canceled. Can you do it?"
You
What do you say then?
I only started last week. I'm a drummer, but I'm pretty new. I don't think you want me.
Ah,
Right? Like, how long have you been drumming? Would you be ready to join the Paul McCartney World Tour?
right.
Probably
okay.
not.
No.
But you've still been drumming for years. So then where's the cutoff point? Like, you
And
yeah. Go ahead.
because the definition of, say, drummer, that person didn't make it, so their concept of what a drummer is not the universal concept of what a drummer is. So maybe, and also they, like, how do you just wake up one day and you say, today I can call myself a drummer, but yesterday I couldn't?
Right. I can do, 88.7 beats per minute paradiddles on the hat. That all of a sudden I'm now official drummer with an official ID card. Like, like it just, and again, for everyone listening, and for all of us, the three of us and everyone else, I would say all the things, whether it be a hobby or a profession, right? Definitely a profession, but hobbies or anything we do, right? Like for me, it would be athletics, whether it be a cyclist, a runner, business, work, whatever we have going on in our lives. Do we identify as that? And if not, why don't we? Right? And I feel like more often than not, if we don't identify with something, and I'm talking something important, right? If you like go to a knitting club once every 3 months or something, like, okay, that's fine. But something that, like, stuff that we do regularly that we enjoy doing, if we don't identify with it, my tendency is to think that that comes from some sort of insecurity of other people thinking we're not good enough.
Also, side note, I knit once a month and I consider myself a knitter. So
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Interesting. Right? Okay.
So perfect. All right, let's real quick. Let's go around and let's just identify some goals that we have. And I thought this would be cool because then, like, once a month or something, we can check in on this podcast and see how we're doing on those goals.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Simon. Let's do like a lightning round. Tell me what your goal is, and let's go around.
Okay. So, like, give my all four, or give the
sure.
first
Why
one?
not? Just
all right, all four. All right. First one is flexibility and mobility. So, for getting specific, I want to be able to stand up, lean forward, and touch my toes all the way. I want to build up my core muscles in order to both get a six-pack or lose or hold a plank for a certain amount of time until it doesn't hurt anymore. I want to be able to do single strokes on a drum at, let's say, 150 beats per minute. And I want to improve my double strokes on the drum as well.
Those are awesome goals. I will challenge you to next time. So all those four goals are great. Yeah. They are all missing one, if not more, of the parameters that we discussed earlier on. Either they're not specific, or they're not measurable, or they're not time bound, or something. So I would say for our next episode, you should figure it out, like fill in the blanks. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's an awesome goal. Melissa, you want to go?
Sure. So I already mentioned the one about classwork. My second one is to be more on top of my duties in this lovely organization. I feel like I've been a bit slacking, so I'm not quite sure how to make that smart at the moment. I'm going to think about it, but I think I've been slacking and I want to change that. And third is actually in regard to knitting. I want to be able to alternate knits in a way that I want to do a knit, purl 47 times and not get confused between which one I did previously. And if you don't understand, that's okay, but I want to be able to do a knitting pattern without thinking correctly. Like just have my fingers move, build up muscle memory.
That's pretty cool. I like that. I like the inclusion of both of you from non-athletic goals and or just different goals, right? Like mostly had knitting. You also had like school related. You had like work related. That's pretty cool. Okay. I will. What's up?
Do you want to? I have the process in which I will do them. I don't know if you want me to.
What do you mean?
For the goals I mentioned. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to speak.
What
those
process?
Or,
like how are you actually going to get them?
Yeah.
Let's do that for when you flush out all the blanks.
Oh, okay.
And so for Melissa, for the work one, maybe when we revisit Simon's, we can also revisit that one.
Oh, great! We're workshopping goals.
Yeah, we're workshopping.
So
like that. This is homework. It's homework. Like, all right, kids, like go off and flush out your goals and come back next class.
All right.
Mine, I will purposefully. Well, I'll tell you what they are, and then I can tell you again, like with all the holes filled in next time we talk about goals. Basically, I want on the bike you have there are two metrics on the bike. One is watts per kilo. The other one is an FTP. Watts per kilo is basically how high is your power output on a bike in relationship to how much you weigh. So basically, a higher watt per kilo means you can put out more power per 1 kilogram of body weight, which means you tend to go faster. Watts per kilo matters more in an uphill, like when there is a lot of hills during a race. If it's a flat race, it matters a little less. My goal is to get a 4.5 watt per kilo and an FTP, which is a second goal. I'll tell you the time thing in a minute. My FTP, I want to get a 350 watt FTP, which is basically how much energy, how much power you can produce, right? It's power and / velocity, complicated, whatever. How much power how strong you are on the bike. And I have both of those goals set up. I need to figure out the date of my C race in the spring, but basically those goals are set for around February, and I understand that time bound means I need a specific date, which I will give it to you next time we resume. But so those are my first two goals. My third goal is I want to be able to touch my palms standing up straight. I want to, with my knees straight, I want to touch my palms to the ground in front of me, which is basically posterior chain flexibility, right? Glute, hamstring flexibility. Similar goal, similar time frame. And fourth is I want, and I understand that most of these aren't, or some of these aren't process goals. We'll talk about that. The fourth one, which is a process goal, is I want to commit to 3 core workouts per week. And those core workouts I have exactly written out and everything. So I want to do it 3 times a week. So the FTP and the watts per kilo are performance goals. They are not process goals. A process goal would be follow my training plan perfectly, hit all my training things and don't miss a workout, right? That would be the process version of that. But so both of those. And what was my third one? Palms on the ground. That's also a performance goal. The process version of that goal would be work on hamstring and glute flexibility 3 times a week. So there you go. That's a little performance and process version of those goals. The outcome, just to give another example, an outcome goal of that would be I want to be the most flexible in the state or something, like something that you can't control because you can't control how flexible other people are. So there you go. 4 process / performance goals of mine. We will revisit our goals in future episodes just to check in and be a little more specific and see how things are going. Yeah, that's about it. I think this was a good episode. Anything else to add, Melissa, Simon?
No.
Let's all do our best on our goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Achieving our goals.
For everyone listening, if there's anyone still listening to this point, which probably there aren't, but if there is one person out there, congratulations, you lasted to the end. My challenge to you is write out some goals, right? What are your goals in life? What are your goals in the long term and short term? I tend to think that short term you can measure in the months. Long term you can measure within a year or a couple of years or longer. Figure out what your long-term goals are. Maybe find some short-term goals that lead you, that build on each other to get those long-term goals, and try to make them process. And if you do what, like I said some of my goals, figured out that they were performance goals, and I rephrased it so that they are process goals. And it'd be awesome if they had those 5 attributes of SMART, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. That's about it. We'll check in next time with how we're doing and any new
also,
updates.
you lovely listener who did stay to the end
one,
are
singular.
now
Singular. Yes.
Well, everybody's an individual and special snowflake and all that, but we are now accountable for our goals to all of our snowflake listeners. So we better stay on those because there's a lot of people who are going to socially judge us if we don't.
Yeah.
So, guys.
Very well said. So all of us have our own social media accounts, right? This show you can follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Run With Chestnut. We all have our own personal ones, which we will tweet at Run With Chestnut. And so if any of you people, lovely person singular out there, if you have some goals, tweet it to us. Tweet us at Run With Chestnut, and we'll check it out. We'll retweet it out to the rest of the folks who listen to this, and we'll get through this together.
All motivate each other.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Run With Chestnut. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. And for Melissa and Simon, my name's Francesco, and see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.